welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom. You know my name, Daniel Faust. I am the main host. My wifey's not here tonight, so it's just me. But we are in the Superhero Battle Room with Jennifer Marshall. So she's going to come on stage in a moment. And as usual, you try to guess the branch as you're trying to figure out her story. She is a veteran who has served her country and is serving our community through advocacy and more. Met her at the Military Influencer Conference. You never think you're going to go meet these types of people. And I got blessed with meeting her, and she actually accepted the interview. So we're going to bring her on stage in her real studio, not like my fake one. And we're going to go hear her beautiful story. Hey, Jennifer, do I have you?
You have me. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's very much that you took my invite because I'm like, you're so uber busy. I'm like, it's 4 kids and a military career, and yours is like way more busy than mine. So I'm glad and gracious that you accepted my invite and actually answered the DM because, again, that's rare. I'm like, most people, after they get to your stature and level, like those DMs don't get answered publicly.
Well, most of them don't get answered, but the good ones do.
Well, good. At least I was good enough to go and be answered. Thank you. So let's get into your story because that's the whole brand of our brand. What inspired you to join the military, either many minutes ago or many moons ago?
Well, I always knew that someone in my family was going to join. My dad was in the National Guard, both my paternal grandparents, both my uncles, my paternal aunt. So it really was just like which one of us was going to join. And I had 2 brothers, so I don't think my family expected the female to join, but it ended up being me. And funny enough, my son is leaving for the Marine Corps in a few months.
Whew. So you just got a generation of family, and it's more like who's gonna go, and you
Yep.
decided to go.
Yep.
So interesting. So where you said your son's heading to the Marines, as you said too?
Yep. He is heading to the Marines, and he leaves in just over 2 months.
Whew, man, I've done almost 25 years. Next year, I retire in 351 days. There's not even a day I want to do in the Marines. It's such a hard branch. I'm just saying, I'm like, I love the hats. I love the rolled up sleeves. I think I'd look decent as a Marine, but it would be so fake and I wouldn't be able to handle. So I'm very much appreciative of your son going over and being once a Marine, always a Marine. So let's go press on. And how long have you been in, or how long were you in, and when did you actually leave?
So I went to MEPS in 1998. I joined in 1999 as soon as I graduated high school. I was 6 weeks out of from my high school graduation. And I served for just shy of 5 years. I deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, and I ended up getting out in spring of 2004. So it's been a while, to put it lightly.
Wow. Yeah, that's about the same time I went. I went in 2000. I tried college for about a year. Now I'm on my 14th college. Yeah, my 14th college. So I tried a little bit. So you did the hardest time to come in because everything was great economically speaking. And then you got out when it was sort of good economically, but it kind of downturned a little bit. So how was that transition in 2004? Because I know for me, after my enlistment, I'm like, it ain't looking good, so I'm going to keep staying. So what made you get out / how was the transition?
Well, for me, I really did want to stay in. I always thought that it would be, a 20 to 30-year career for me. And unfortunately, I ended up getting pretty ill from the anthrax shots. I took 5 of the 6, and then it got to the point where I couldn't take anymore. And then I ended up having to get out right after I had passed my 4-year mark. So about 9 months after that, couldn't go to my next command. I had to call them and, let them know that I was ill. And it was a pretty rough transition, to put it lightly. I think people look at the final product and they think, oh, well, you're on TV and you work as an actor and you probably have a pretty cush life. Must have been a great transition, but it was very difficult. I didn't want to get out. I was suffering from post-traumatic stress from an MST. I was sick from the anthrax shots. So it was kind of like the least ideal way to get out. And then a few years later, the recession happened and everything crashed. And so it definitely was a pretty challenging time in my life. I'm glad that I went through it in retrospect because it helped make me who I am today, but it was not an easy transition whatsoever.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. I remember when I was in line for the anthrax shot, and I think I was on my third or my fourth, and we were all getting them like DOD wide and everything else. And this one guy refused to get his anthrax shot. And we didn't have Velcro like we do now. Like everybody, Army, Marines, are all Velcro stripes, but they literally, he was E4, and then they said, "You're done, you're E1." They literally took his stripes off in the line, and I was standing behind. I was like, wow. And that put the fear in me to keep going. But that shot, just like other shots, have some really detrimental things. So I think even though he lost 3 stripes, I'm thinking now in retrospect, I'm kind of proud of him now because he was bold enough to stand up and say, "Hey, I'm not willing to get this because I don't know what you're putting in me and I don't know the consequences." I've been blessed and I didn't get any consequences, at least nothing I'm aware of. But it's amazing. I've been hearing more of that vaccine injury thing and the vaccine mixes. So it's unfortunate that you had to go through that. And hopefully that you're better taken care of now than you were back then.
Absolutely 110% better, but it was a really rough couple of years. And I don't think people really understood until a few years later when people started coming out and explaining that this vaccine had injured them. Because I think at the time it was kind of seen as like malingering or, this person just doesn't want to get the shot. But, I never said I didn't want to get the shot. I stood in the line and I was young and I did what I was told. I was in the military. And it wasn't really until the second or third shot that I started to piece things together. And I said, I think this could be the shot. First shot, I thought I had the flu. Second shot, I thought maybe mono was going around the ship. But after each subsequent shot, I got sicker and sicker. And so eventually, when I went to medical, I said, just look at my medical record before I started getting the shots. And then after, that's all I'm asking you to do. Senior medical officer looked and he signed off and said, I'm not going to require you to get that last shot, even though the DOD directive demanded that we all get them. So I'm infinitely grateful to him because I don't know what would have happened if I would have gotten that last shot. My body just did not agree with what was being injected into me.
Yeah. Well, we'll get more into that and hopefully more of the positive things in a moment. So we're going to take a quick sponsor break.
You have served. No matter if it was in the military or civilian service, you deserve to live good. Live good in health. Live good in wealth. Live good in so much more. At Live Good, the global wholesale buyer club, we empower you to take your mission to the next level. Are you ready to live? We all struggle in life. No matter the barriers, we do not need to stay there. Each day is an opportunity to step into better health. Each day is an opportunity to step into wealth. Each day is an opportunity to step into dreams. Live Good, the global wholesale buyers club, empowers all these steps and more. Ready to be empowered? Grab the link to learn more.
Welcome back to War Hero Superhero, and thank you for our sponsor, Live Good. If you're looking to be a sponsor on our show, we keep the rates super low and we advertise you a ton of times. So if you're interested, get back on our DMs. We're here with Jennifer. We're going to bring her back on the stage in a moment. She was talking about vaccine injury, which I didn't learn about until years later. So we're going to talk more into what made her change to serve her current community. So we're going to bring it back forward. Hey, Jennifer, still have you, right?
Yep, you got me.
Awesome. Yeah, the thing about Wi-Fi, you just never know.
True.
So we were talking about the hard part about transition. You got out, vaccine injury, all these other types of things, and then the economy and everything else. Sometimes we go over and get caught up in ourselves, especially the first 3 to 6 years and everything else. What made you pivot to serve the current community you're serving now? Because you didn't have to. You served our country 4 to 5 years, went over and faithfully got out and everything else. And you could have just faded into the black in a sense and we would have never known who you are and just could have served as just like a standard civilian. But what made you serve at a higher level as you're doing today?
So I think for me, the pivot happened, once I got better emotionally and mentally and physically. I just, that feeling to serve, it never left. And once I got all those other things out of the way, there was just something missing. There was like this hole. And I thought, I want to be around my brothers and sisters again. I obviously can't rejoin because of the way that I got out from being ill. How can I do this? And so I started giving back. I would do Meals on Wheels. I did dog rescue for a while. And then eventually I got hooked up with an organization called Pinups for Vets. And it's led by a wonderful woman named Gina Elise. She's not a veteran herself. She's a patriotic civilian. And so we dress up as World War II era pinup girls, very colorful, very modest. And we go into hospitals, nursing homes, and wounded warrior detachments, and we meet those veterans. Right now, we're on a 50-state hospital tour, and we have one state left, Alaska. So it's been 19 years in the making, and they sell a calendar to help fund our 50-state hospital tour, and you can order that at www.pinupsforvets.com. And all of the models in the calendar and all of the models who go on the visits, we are female veterans who have served this country. So it is an amazing organization that I'm very proud to be an ambassador for.
Yeah, that's how I think I met you initially. Like I didn't know of you, but I met Gina, and then we did a 22-day rucksack challenge because each year we fundraise for a veteran or a patriotic nonprofit that's serving military veterans, first responders. And we did that for a year, and now we're serving wounded warrior. And I saw the photos, and I'm like, I'm glad it's classy because I'm like, for me, I'm like, we serve from the prayer room to the boardroom, so we want to go over and honor women and uplift women. And sometimes you get into some things in the vet community. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is that I love to go over to do that for the year, and love to get to meet Gina and then all of you in person, because you're just as beautiful on the calendar as you are in person. So it's character, countenance, and natural beauty. That was the best part. You didn't just go and see the facade and like, oh, they look like they're going to deck you. Okay, not so cool. You know, it's just like, it's really nice to go over and to meet, just like from Janae and yourself and Gina and all the other ladies that are on the calendar. So that was a beautiful time to go over and meet you. And it was, you even during MIC, you guys were going out and visiting a hospital. And I know at least Janae was like running on fumes because she was like up networking and connecting until 4 a.m. And then it was like 8 at the table. And then all you ladies were running out early afternoon during the event. And I think this was before the big, huge gala. I think was it that day or was it the day after?
I think it was the day after, because right after we went to the Atlanta VA, we had an amazing visit there with the patients. And then we had to go straight from there to the airport. So we were all kind of like disrobing our pinup stuff, taking out our hair flowers and taking off our red lipstick because we were going to the airport. And then ended up flying home kind of helter skelter, like half pinup makeup, half civvies, half pinup clothes. It was quite the look.
Yeah, that is the interesting thing. For me, I just go like this and my look is done.
Done.
The most fashionable thing is like my polo. I think it would be kind of cool one day. I don't know if it would be pinups for men, but I think it would be kind of cool if like gentlemen men dressed up like the World War II things and do that. That would be really cool and interesting because I like that type of era. It's like it was more classy. Like we kind of dress like PJs that woods nowadays. Like literally, I feel like I'm wearing like wooded PJs each and every day. So the older styles are actually more classier. So
we actually did have a couple of male veterans come with us to some visits. BJ Lang, Ricky Reba, retired Colonel Strong. And, they wear their nice little bow ties and their suspenders, and they're very dapper. And it's a great addition. Our friend Chase came with us when we were in Atlanta. And it's just wonderful because when we walk into the rooms, the patients, they don't recognize off the bat that we're veterans because obviously we're dressed up. But then as soon as they realize we're veterans, the guys are veterans, we're all veterans, it's really a bonding moment.
Yeah. Well, me and my wife will coming on next year. So I would love to actually go with you all if that's a possibility, if you do that. So.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Let Gina know. We're always about including people on our visits because it really is just a magical time.
Cool. So let's go into our next question. So you had some tough times in your transition, but obviously tough times don't go over and end. We run into tough times in a moment. Sometimes it's a season. Sometimes it can be ongoing. And so what is your secret fuel when the pressure and the tough times come?
I think it's just putting everything in perspective because now I work in television and film, and it was funny when I made that transition. I would go to acting class and we would have these 3-page scenes and we would have a week to memorize them, a week. So that's, an extraordinarily long amount of time. Normally for auditions, you probably have 12 to 24 hours. So, I would see other actors and they would get very frustrated and they'd be very stressed out from having to memorize these scenes. And I thought, this is Kate compared to, being 19 and being on deployment. So I think once I put everything in perspective, once I did that, I was able to focus on gratitude. And, I think another thing is in my business, there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of just failure to just be honest with you. There's a lot of failure. 95% of SAG-AFTRA members are not working. They make less than $5,000 a year. So it's a very, very competitive sort of business. And when I went into it, I just said, I don't care what people's opinion is of me. Other people's opinion of me is none of my business. And I'm just going to live my life and do what I have to do and present these organic scenes for them when I'm auditioning. And, if they like it, great. If they don't, the next person will like it. And I think that that's, really served me well. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2020 and it was the same thing. It was like, that was the hardest time of my life. And I just put everything in perspective. If I got up that morning and I actually woke up, that was an absolute blessing. And what else can you ask for at that point? You trudge along, you do the best that you can do, but you focus on the positive. You got up in the morning. Other people didn't have that opportunity.
I think that's really huge for all of us, and it just reminds me of, like, we were talking off screen about my stuff and everything else. I'm like, that is perspective. I'm like, you're going over and going through so many things, and we forget about the pressures that we've gone through and the trials that become the testimonies. And when we get a small little eek, we go over like, oh no, everything's over. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've almost been homeless 4 times. I've had 4 suicide attempts in my family. I had to go over and deal with those types of things. Almost went through a divorce. And you've gone through cancer and the anthrax and everything else in the vaccine industry. We should be happy that we're alive and be that gratitude and remind ourselves, like, it's not to mull over those things, but be like, I could be in a worse place. And like, sometimes other people could be in a worse place. And you're like, I'm focusing on my emotions and my amygdala. And I'm like, I need to get here. I need to get truly here. And I need to truly go over and get here in those moments. So then me, you, we all can go over and be a blessing to people instead of like allowing our emotions to be a cursing in that. So I thought that was really, wow. Just a wow moment. So hopefully this goes viral when I do my Opus clips, because I thought that was like, that's it. That's the icing on the cake. So my last question for you is this, and this always challenges people. Let's see if you can actually hit all 3. Sometimes people hit one, they don't even realize it. But 3 superhero tactics. So either thinking of your younger self, either when you were in the service, or going over and thinking maybe someone you're mentoring, or maybe when you're doing advocacy and whatnot. If you only had, like, let's say elevator time or even escalator time at Mick, we had very little time with Mick. What would you give that person to take them from surviving to thriving if you only had that 90 seconds in a sense?
So I would not tell my younger self anything because I feel like everything happened the way that it should have. And I'm a firm believer in the butterfly effect. My life is amazing and I have 4 children and I'm very happy. So I would not tell my younger self anything, even though my younger self struggled a lot. As far as other people, I would tell them you're much stronger than what you think. So much of life is mental tenacity and, people tend to give up too soon. So I would say, believe in your own strength, number 1. Number 2 is, I mentioned it earlier, you can't care what other people think of you. You have to just trudge along, do what's best. Keep on keeping on. That doesn't mean be a bad person. It just means don't get wrapped up in what other people's expectations are of you. And I think the last thing is you have to do good in this world and you have to leave it a better place than you found it. It's really, really important to me. And, maybe it sounds cliche, but I want this world to be a better place as a result of me being so blessed to have lived. And so I go out of my way to try to make a better life every single day, whether it's something small, it's something big, because I know that I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the kindness of others. So I definitely try to return that favor whenever I can.
Those are beautiful things to go reflect on and ponder on. So Jennifer, I want to thank you in the honor of coming on my show and everything else. I appreciate you. I want to give you the floor one more time if you want to uplift any other nonprofits or connect them to your social, or if you just want to leave them with a quote, and then we will go over and give credits. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. So there's a couple things. There's another amazing organization called American Corporate Partnership. And so it basically puts veterans in mentee positions with mentors in whatever industry the veteran is interested in going into. So that is also another important nonprofit that I very much support their mission. There are so many incredible nonprofits in the space that, you know, find one that you want to support with your time, with your money, and go all in, because they're definitely operating in that space where the VA and the government is failing veterans. And so we want to support that. And then I'll leave you with a quote from Larry Bird and then my socials, because I love to connect with people. A quote from Larry Bird is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Remember that, because lots of people tell me all the time, you're so lucky, you're so lucky. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm put myself out there, you know, for a long time, put myself out there. My socials, I love to connect with people. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Facebook /actress Jennifer Marshall. Instagram is Jen13, 2 N's. And, you know, Twitter, the same thing, but definitely send me a message and let's connect. And if you're a veteran who wants to get into the industry, I don't recommend it. It's very difficult, but I'm always down to mentor people and help them chase their dreams.